What happens when a franchise built around the greatest player of this generation finds itself handcuffed by the one position that's supposed to be their foundation? The Edmonton Oilers are staring down a crisis that no amount of Connor McDavid magic can solve, a goaltending situation so precarious that it's threatening to derail their entire championship window. And now, as the trade deadline looms like a ticking time bomb, two names have emerged from the chaos: Jordan Binnington and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. But here's the million-dollar question that should be keeping every Oilers fan awake at night. Are either of these options the savior Edmonton desperately needs, or are they just expensive band-aids on a gaping wound? Let's cut through the noise and face the unvarnished truth. The Edmonton Oilers are currently ranked 30th in team save percentage at a catastrophic .876. 30th out of 32 teams. This isn't just bad, it's franchise-threatening. When you've got McDavid and Leon Draisaitl putting up video game numbers, and you're still hemorrhaging games because pucks are flying past your goaltender like he's a traffic cone, you've got a problem that transcends tactics and systems. Elliotte Friedman laid it out with surgical precision last week. Edmonton isn't looking for a marginal upgrade. They're not interested in a maybe or a project. The Oilers' cap situation is so suffocatingly tight that they can only justify one type of move: a massive, game-changing, proven commodity upgrade. Anything less is organizational malpractice. This is where the conversation gets fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. Jordan Binnington. The proven warrior with a complicated past. Jordan Binnington's name carries weight. This is a goaltender who stormed onto the NHL scene like a hurricane in 2019, dragging the St. Louis Blues from last place to a Stanley Cup championship in one of the most improbable runs in modern hockey history. He's got the pedigree, the playoff experience, and, crucially, the competitive fire that Edmonton's core respects. Steve Valiquette, one of the most respected goaltending analysts in the business, dropped a bombshell assessment that should have every Oilers executive sitting up straight. In the system of the Oilers, Binnington could have prevented 16 more goals than Skinner this season. 16 goals. In a league where games are decided by single tallies, where playoff series turn on one bad bounce, that's the difference between a first-round exit and a legitimate cup run. But here's where the plot thickens into something far more complex. Binnington currently carries a modified no-trade clause, and Edmonton is reportedly one of 18 teams on his no-go list. On the surface, that's a deal killer. But dig deeper, and the situation becomes far more nuanced. Binnington is 32 years old, playing for a St. Louis Blues team that's cratered near the bottom of the Western Conference. His save percentage this season sits at .878, not exactly the numbers that inspire confidence. He's got 3 years remaining on a contract with a $6 million cap hit, which in today's NHL is simultaneously reasonable for a proven starter and potentially crippling if he doesn't perform. Yet, multiple insider sources suggest something fascinating. Binnington might be willing to waive that no-trade protection for the right opportunity. And what constitutes the right opportunity for a competitive goaltender approaching the twilight of his career? Playing behind Connor McDavid on a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, Valiquette went even further, stating, "A change of scenery for Binnington. I think he'd like it. I have the impression he'd probably welcome the idea, especially if it were to Edmonton." The mutual respect between Binnington and McDavid, forged during the Four Nations tournament, adds another layer to this potential marriage. McDavid has openly praised Binnington's competitiveness and how difficult he is to beat when he's locked in. That kind of endorsement from your franchise player isn't something general managers take lightly. The analytical case, why Binnington's style fits Edmonton's system beyond the intangibles and the resume, there's a compelling analytical argument for why Binnington makes sense for Edmonton specifically. His aggressive, laterally skilled style of play aligns perfectly with what the Oilers' defensive structure requires. Even in a down year for St. Louis, his profile suggests he could thrive behind a more competent defensive core. The question becomes, is Edmonton willing to bet $6 million in cap space and whatever assets St. Louis demands on a 32-year-old goaltender with declining numbers? banking on the belief that a change of scenery and a better team in front of him will unlock the 2019 version of Jordan Binnington. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, the younger gamble with higher risk. Now enter Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, a completely different proposition. At 26 years old, UPL represents youth and potential upside. During the 2023-24 season, he looked like a legitimate emerging star, posting a 2.57 GAA and .910 save percentage that convinced Buffalo to lock him up with a 5-year, $23.75 million extension running through 2028-29. But here's where the alarm bells start ringing at deafening volume. Since signing that extension, Luukkonen has registered a brutal .888 save percentage across 63 games. He ranks 72nd out of 76 NHL goaltenders in goals, saved above expected at a staggering minus 18.95 over that span. Those aren't just bad numbers, they're catastrophic. They're the kind of numbers that make front offices question whether they've made a franchise-altering mistake. Buffalo finds itself in a goaltending logjam with Luukkonen, Alex Lyon, Colton Ellis on the NHL roster, and prize prospect Devin Levi waiting in the AHL. General manager Kevin Adams will need to make moves, and trading UPL might be the most logical path forward, even if it means taking a loss on that contract. David Pagnotta of the fourth period confirmed that both Edmonton and Montreal have shown baseline interest in Luukkonen, with a potential move possibly materializing around the draft. But here's the critical question. Why would Edmonton take on a goaltender who's performing even worse than their current options? The answer lies in the buy low philosophy. If Edmonton's management believes that Luukkonen's struggles are environment-related, that Buffalo's defensive chaos and organizational dysfunction are the primary culprits, then acquiring him at a discount could represent a calculated gamble with massive upside. He's younger than Binnington, potentially has more years of elite play ahead of him, and his contract, while not ideal, is more manageable than some of the other options on the market. And this is a massive, but the risk is exponentially higher. Edmonton doesn't have the luxury of time to let a struggling goaltender figure it out. Their championship window is now, with McDavid in his prime and the core locked in for the next few seasons. Betting on Luukkonen means betting that a change of scenery instantly transforms him back into the 2023-24 version, and if that bet fails, it could cost them everything. The impossible choice, proven veteran or potential reclamation project. So here we are, staring at two fundamentally different paths, each with its own terrifying pitfalls. Option A, Jordan Binnington, the proven playoff warrior with a Stanley Cup ring, elite international experience, and the analytical profile that suggests he could thrive in Edmonton's system. The downsides? He's 32, his current numbers are mediocre, he's on Edmonton's no-trade list, though potentially willing to waive, and his $6 million cap hit for 3 more years is a significant commitment. Option B, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, the younger goaltender with a higher theoretical ceiling and a longer contract that could provide stability if he rediscovers his form. The downsides? His recent performance has been abysmal, there's no guarantee a change of scenery fixes his issues, and Edmonton would be gambling their championship aspirations on a reclamation project. The Oilers front office is walking a tightrope over a canyon. Make the wrong choice, and they waste another year of McDavid's prime. Make the right choice, and they could finally solve the goaltending puzzle that's haunted them for years. What the numbers don't tell you: the psychological factor. There's another dimension to this decision that analytics can't fully capture. The psychological impact of bringing in a goaltender who commands respect. Binnington, for all his flaws, is a proven winner who's carried a team to the ultimate prize. That kind of presence in the locker room, that kind of confidence, can be infectious. Luukkonen, conversely, is coming from a losing environment in Buffalo, a franchise that hasn't made the playoffs since 2011. Does he have the mental fortitude to handle the pressure of playing behind McDavid in a Canadian market with Stanley Cup expectations? That's an unknown variable that could make or break the entire experiment. The trade market reality. Who else is even available? Here's the uncomfortable truth that makes this decision even more pressing. There aren't many other options. The goaltending trade market is notoriously thin. especially mid-season. Teams that have quality goaltending don't trade it, and teams that don't have quality goaltending are in the same desperate position as Edmonton. Montreal is also sniffing around both Binnington and Luukkonen, sitting at 28th in team save percentage at .877. The Canadiens might not be in win-now mode like Edmonton, but they're also looking to upgrade, which means competition for these assets. If Edmonton passes on both options and waits for something better to materialize, they're gambling that a superior option will emerge before the trade deadline. That's a dangerous game when you're already sitting at 30th in save percentage. If forced to choose between these two options, the analytical and emotional case tilts toward Binnington, but barely, and with significant reservations. Binnington's playoff pedigree, his stylistic fit with Edmonton's system, the mutual respect with McDavid, and Valaket's endorsement create a compelling package. Yes, he's older. Yes, his current numbers aren't inspiring. But in a league where goaltending is voodoo and championship runs often come down to which goaltender gets hot at the right time, betting on the guy who's already proven he can do it makes more sense than betting on the guy who might be able to do it. Luukkonen represents the higher risk, higher reward play. If Edmonton's scouting department has identified specific technical issues that they believe can be corrected, or if they're convinced his struggles are purely environment-related, then the younger, longer-term option might be worth the gamble. But here's the brutal reality that Edmonton's management needs to confront. Neither of these options is a slam dunk. Both represent significant risks. Both could fail spectacularly, and both require the Oilers to commit substantial resources, whether in cap space, trade assets, or both, with no guarantee of success. The trade deadline is approaching. Every game that passes with subpar goaltending is another game that could haunt Edmonton in the standings. The Pacific Division is a bloodbath, and the margin for error is razor-thin. Kevin Adams in Buffalo knows he needs to move a goaltender. St. Louis Blues management knows Binnington's value is declining with every loss. These are motivated sellers, which means Edmonton might be able to extract favorable terms, but only if they act decisively. The worst possible outcome for the Oilers would be paralysis, waiting for the perfect option that never materializes, then scrambling at the deadline to make a panic move that doesn't address the core issue. Connor McDavid is 28 years old. Leon Draisaitl is 29. The championship window won't stay open forever. Every season that passes without solving the goaltending crisis is another season wasted, another year of generational talent squandered because the team couldn't stop the puck. Whether Edmonton pursues Jordan Binnington, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, or someone else entirely, one thing is crystal clear: doing nothing is not an option. The current situation is untenable. A .876 team save percentage doesn't win Stanley Cups. It doesn't even win playoff rounds. The Oilers front office is facing a decision that will define this era of the franchise. Get it right, and they could finally unlock their championship potential. Get it wrong, and they'll be explaining to McDavid and the fan base why another season slipped through their fingers because they couldn't solve the oldest problem in hockey: keeping the puck out of the net. The pieces are on the board. The clock is ticking, and somewhere in Edmonton, the pressure is building to make the move that changes everything. What do you think? Should the Oilers go all in on Binnington's proven pedigree, take a chance on Luukkonen's potential, or hold out for another option? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you want to see more in-depth analysis of the biggest storylines shaping the NHL playoff race.